from CrossFit South Bend. Today we're going to answer the question, are you a sugar burner or are you a fat burner? So you may not have heard these terms before, but this is a really important concept to understand in terms of weight loss and energy dips and things like that. So a couple things to say up front. The first thing to say is that no one is purely a sugar burner or purely a fat burner. Our bodies primarily use both carbohydrate and fat for their energy needs, and they are always using both in combination. Even if it's carb dominant in one particular instance, there's still going to be some fat burning going on. And even if it's fat dominant in another case, let's say the ketogenic diet, there's going to be some carb utilization in that case as well. But there's a relative balance between the two that's important to keep in mind. So one thing to start out by saying is that, if someone tends to be a carb burner or sugar burner, things are slid more towards that side of equation, then typically speaking, their energy levels are going to be a lot more all over the place. So with carbs and sugar, generally speaking, the best way to think about these is like rocket fuel. So our body will use these preferentially for activities where we need to be going more intense. CrossFit could be an example, but also sprinting, longer distances, things like that. Whereas fat is typically reserved for more steady state, longer term activities like walking or moving around the house or hiking, things like that. So if someone is a carb burner or a sugar burner, going along with that idea of rocket fuel, it's really good for these kind of short bursts of energy, but it also peters out really quickly. So one thing that some people can run into if they are more dominant when it comes to carb burning or sugar burning is that they get these gigantic energy swings where their energy will go up and they'll feel great after that morning bagel or orange juice or what have you. For 40 minutes to an hour, they feel like Superman, and then it crashes, right? And their blood sugar dips too low, and then they need that infusion of sugar to bring them back up to the point where they, feel like they can actually function and function their best. And while it's true that we all need some carbohydrate to function at a basic level, you don't want to be on this energy roller coaster of carbs and sugar where it's kind of up and down and up and down and up and down. You want to have that balanced out and be a bit more even. And just more generally speaking, the way human beings are kind of set up, we are supposed to go, we're supposed to be able to go a couple hours at a time, and sometimes even a couple days at a time without eating and without losing our ability to function. So this is something that human beings should naturally be able to do, and needing to eat every 2 hours because your blood sugar is dipped too low is not a normal state of affairs. If you're getting hangry, hungry and angry, or if you're getting mood swings because you haven't eaten in 2 hours, something is up with your energy level. So with fat, and if someone slides a little bit more towards the fat burner side of things, energy tends to be a bit more even keel. So one of the things we'll typically see when people switch from eating processed junk food to eating more of a real whole food diet when they come to work with us is that their energy will be a lot more even. It won't be so all over the place, with kind of these spikes and dips and peaks and valleys. They won't have that 2 p.m. energy slump anymore. They won't feel like they can't get out of bed. It'll just be a little bit more constant and even, and that's because they start to get some healthy fats in the mix, and also because they're cutting down on those processed foods and excess carbohydrates and sugar. Another important thing to recognize here about this sugar burner versus carb burner question is that just from a biological perspective, our body can only store so much of this carb or sugar rocket fuel in the body, which the storage form of it is called glycogen. And at most, the number of calories of glycogen stored in the human body is in the single-digit thousands, versus fat, which is typically in like the high tens of thousands to hundreds of thousands, depending on how much fat is on that particular body. So, you will run out of carbohydrate and sugar way quicker than you'll run out of fat. And one of the things that happens with our current way of eating is that we're always topping off the carbohydrate stores. We never get to dip down into those fat energy stores, and that's why it can be hard to lose that fat that we're trying to lose, because we never actually get to fully tap into it, because we're always replenishing with these super high caloric carb and sugar sources. So for a number of different reasons, whether you want more energy throughout the day, you want fewer peaks and valleys, you don't want to be hangry all the time, you want to properly fuel your body with not just a mix, not just, predominantly carbohydrates, but a good mix of carbs and fat. You want to tap into those fat stores. It's a good idea to be somewhat of a balance between being a carb burner and a fat burner. And if anything, being more towards that fat burner side can be beneficial. But most people today are very strongly on that side of a carb burner side. And what we try to do is try to balance that out so that their energy is much more even throughout the day, and they're actually tapping into those fat stores by not repeatedly topping off their carbohydrate and sugar stores with highly processed and refined foods. All right, guys, so hopefully now you've got a sense of what it means to be a sugar burner versus a fat burner. Again, we're always burning both of these things in one way or another, but it's the relative balance between the two that ends up being important. And hopefully you can see that maybe sliding the equation a little bit more towards that fat burning side can yield a lot of benefits that can be very helpful. All right, guys.